said yes.
A man peels off his own skin to please his girlfriend. His girlfriend smiles with satisfaction, because this is the loyalty she desires. However, life takes a troublesome turn as the blood from the man's body necessitates daily washing of bed sheets, constant floor cleaning, and regular wiping of furniture he comes into contact with. Despite the added chores, the woman, considering the man's sacrifice, refrains from expressing any grievances. Due to the lack of skin, the man becomes extremely sensitive to the cold, forcing them to crank up the heating, resulting in escalating heating bills. Simultaneously, the man's career takes a hit as no clients are willing to collaborate with a skinless individual. The woman, left with only words of encouragement, watches as the man lies on her lap, seeking warmth. If it were you, would you be willing to peel off your skin to validate love? A man goes to extreme lengths by peeling off his own skin, solely because his girlfriend prefers him without it. However, at a gathering with friends, the man begins to sense a subtle rejection. His self-esteem takes a hit as friends intentionally avoid touching things he has come into contact with. Sinking into melancholy, he fixating on his skin every morning. The woman also perceives the regret in the man for peeling off his skin, as she gazes upon the blood-stained state of their home. Frustration takes root within her, a silent standoff ensues, and neither of them breaks the icy tension. One day, in an attempt to understand the sacrifice the man made for her, the woman decides to peel off her own skin. The intense pain swiftly forces her to abandon the notion. Reflecting on her husband's willingness to peel for her, she reaches out to him, as they share a moment. Hoping for reconciliation, the husband's hand moves to her waist. As the woman lowered her head, her friends were all taken aback. Then, like a frenzy, they began shouting and crazily stomping on insect eggs. The woman desperately tried to stop them, but her friends only became more frantic. Little did she know, it was all just a dream. However, when the woman crawled out of the bathtub, her entire body was covered in slime, and she slipped wildly on the floor. After a struggle to stand up, she discovered a large number of insect eggs on the bed. It turned out that she had been bitten by a mutated mosquito. The numerous insect eggs on the bed are the woman's offspring. At this moment, the woman had transformed into a grotesque creature, half human and half mosquito, busy reproducing insect eggs every day within the confines of the house. Witnessing roaches attempting to harm her offspring, the woman picked up a cockroach, ready to make it her dinner. The woman has a burlap sack for her upper body, and a pair of sexy legs for her lower half. This tantalizing sight proves irresistible to a man. Intrigued, he becomes curious, and attempts to undo the buttons of the sackcloth. To his shock, a piece of meat falls out from within. The man is startled. The woman, now in a fit of madness, convulses and contorts her body, wreaking havoc on the man's home before fleeing. This terrifying encounter leaves the man haunted. From that day forward, every time he sees a sackcloth, he feels compelled to inspect it. The affectionate woman, undeterred by the chaos, continues to lurk near the man's home. She teasingly uses darts to provoke him. Unable to endure any longer, the man approaches the woman and delivers a hefty beating. However, she deploys a weapon in self-defense and slices off a piece of the man's flesh. This woman possesses captivating legs below, yet her upper body is consistently enveloped in a burlap sack. Unable to tolerate it any longer, her boyfriend unleashes a flurry of punches, as she seemingly enjoys the spectacle. Lying on the ground and revealing her thighs, the man, finding the situation eerie, grabs a stone and starts smashing it down. Despite his attempts to harm her, even pushing her off a cliff, she miraculously remains unscathed. Returning to him, despair overwhelms the man as he kneels, pleading for mercy. The woman extends a hand, gently leaning into the man's embrace, shedding tears of grievance. Unwilling to give up, the man curiously peels back the burlap sack, sticking his head inside. In the next moment, he emerges with a face full of wounds. The woman then undulates her legs, driving the man to madness. In a fit of insanity, he completely enters the sack, instantly devoured by the woman. The woman's belly kept squirming, as if something was about to crawl out. She lowered her head to look at her belly, only to discover a lump of fat jumped out, turning into a chubby fat baby. Turns out, the 98-pound hottie just took a slimming capsule and felt a cramp in her stomach. She turned around, found a fat baby crawling out from her waist. Then her whole body started to wriggle. She touched her body in terror. Then, she was broken down into a bunch of fat babies. Her friend, hearing the noise, came upstairs to inquire, only to find the door locked. No matter how much she called, there was no response. When she finally rushed into the room was already empty. She looked towards the window, saw the fat babies waving at her, then jumped down. "Do you want to try this capsule?" A fly crawled out of the man's eye, another from his nose, and then thousands more emerged from his mouth. Just after he finished showering, he pulled a fly out of his ear. Turning around, he tossed it into the toilet and flushed it away. Feeling a wave of disgust, continuing his routine, he discovered 2 more flies crawling out of his ears. Startled, he quickly swatted them away and crushed them underfoot. Growing increasingly fearful, he checked his ears in the mirror, only to find more flies emerging. Armed with a towel, he attacked them and flushed them all down the toilet, thinking everything was fine. But the next moment, his back was swarming with flies. Stripping off his clothes, he bundled them up and threw them out of the room. Tormented, the man was on the verge of losing his sanity. But where are these flies coming from? The parents gently placed their daughter into the oven, swiftly shutting the door. The girl, startled awake, kicked the door open and crawled out. The man stepped on her, while the woman sealed her mouth with tape. Together, they forcefully dragged her back in, ignoring her cries for help. Desperate, the girl pounded on the door, but they wrapped the tape tighter. As the woman flicked on the oven switch, flames erupted instantly. Suddenly, police burst in, cutting the tape with a knife to rescue the girl. She cried, clinging tightly to the female cop. The man attempted to disarm the cop, but was subdued. The woman grabbed a knife, intending to harm her daughter, but the cop intervened. The mother's eyes revealed fear, because their daughter was possessed by a demon and has already killed 8 family members. To survive, they had no choice but to kill their daughter. If you were in their position, would you choose to kill her or save her? How does it feel when you lose your finger? Did you know? Pa's job is to cut fish, to catch up with the work schedule. He didn't even realize when his finger was cut off. By the time he noticed, the finger had already been packed into a can, sent to the supermarket in town. Pa was very anxious. He started searching can by can, but even after buying all the canned goods, he couldn't find his finger, until one day, at a roadside convenience store, Pa suddenly heard a familiar sound coming from a can, bought it and opened it. Indeed, there was a severed finger inside. Pa took back his finger, but something didn't feel right, because the finger kept wanting to pick his nose. The next day, during a meal, Pa saw his real finger on someone else's hand, but the person was about to use it to pick his nose. He quickly tackled the man. Finally, the fingers were swapped back. The man was about to hang himself, but suddenly he heard someone calling him. He turned around, surprisingly saw his deceased grandma transformed into a gecko. Grandma explained that after her death, her ashes were scattered into the river, eaten by river fish. The fish were caught by people, eaten by children. After eating, the children experienced digestive issues, nourishing the crops. When the crops matured, they were devoured by locusts, and the locusts were eaten by geckos. That's how Grandma became a gecko. The reason why the man wanted to hang himself is he's scared to confess his feelings to his crush. This girl likes collecting plastic bottles. She's even piled them up into a mountain, but the boy appreciates her thriftiness. Encouraged by Grandma, the man reached the top of the plastic mountain, loudly declaring his love. The girl was touched by his sincerity, eventually became his wife. Do you have a habit of collecting plastic bottles?